has these features, that car has those features. I mean, the things, subhanAllah, for example, I really wonder, a man, may Allah bless everyone with their dream, if it is good for him or her, you know, something that he knows that he cannot have it in his life. But he spends time researching about that, talking of it. For example, Lamborghini. I see people, this is a new version of, you know, new model of Lamborghini, and these are the extra new features, exploring that, reading about it. Why? Are you going to have that car? Are you going to drive it? No. Then why are you wasting your time in that? Things that are not relevant, that you might not even do it in your life. There are people, subhanAllah, I met a brother, not here in India, he is most up to date with respect to any new phone, new car, new technology, everything new. Things that are even beyond his reach. It is not bad or haram. I'm speaking of using our time in a proper way. And you associate yourself to a person that will really benefit you in wisdom and in right knowledge. And this is what Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, these are not my words. وَزَادَ فِي عِلْمِكُمْ مَنْطِقُهُ. His speech should be so concise, so profound, and so full of wisdom that when he speaks on any subject, it should benefit you. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And the third, what Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَذَكَّرَكُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ عَمَلُهُ. His actions should be such that when you see him doing something, it should immediately remind you of the hereafter. When you see a person, for example, his behavior, it should remind you that if I do that, I will get this reward in the hereafter, this pleasure of Allah in the hereafter. If I don't do this, I'm going to have this repercussion and this consequence in my life. So these are the three things that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned. So we should look out to at least one friend who should be befitting this description of Sayyidul Mursaleen sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of our friendship with people. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. The next, now the chapter is over here. We covered. The next chapter is this is also a very, very important chapter. فصل في تعظيم العلم وأهله. Chapter 4, respecting knowledge and those who are, and the people of knowledge. We live in an age where piety, unfortunately, is frowned upon, and people of knowledge are degraded and disrespected. And it is because we don't respect even the knowledge itself, therefore we disrespect the even people of knowledge. For example, with here, because the deen is not important in our life, therefore the people of deen also are not important in our life. It goes this way. If you have respect for deen, then you will definitely respect the people of deen. And people, they have this habit of speaking ill of scholars whenever they get the chance. There is a statement of Allama ibn Asakir rahimahullah ta'ala, and it is a warning, a serious warning. He says, من أطلق لسانه في العلماء بالسلب ابتلاه الله قبل موته بموت القلب. There are two dreadful consequences a person will face in his life if someone speaks ill of scholars. Number one, to himself directly. Number two, to his generation to come. The first dreadful consequence that he will face, Ibn Asakir rahimahullah said, whoever would speak ill of a scholar, slander him and do things that way, then ibtalahu Allahu qabla mawtihi bimawt al-qalb, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause his heart to spiritually die before his natural death. His heart will be spiritually dead before the natural death could, come to him or her. And the second harm that has been said is Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deprive his future generation of the ilm of deen. He may not have these scholars in his generation, in his future generation. And there is a logical connection here. Let me explain that to you. I mean, you can think, why is that, his future generation will be deprived of that? And what is the connection between him and his future generation? Because his children will see him disrespecting ulama. And therefore it will be go on and on. They will do the same. Therefore they will be deprived. And their children will see them disrespecting ulama. And they will do the same. And this is why it makes sense that Allah will deprive him, not only him, even his generation. And the author has mentioned here that the scholars used to say that if you want, for example, an elderly man who had a transformation, a religious transformation in his life, then he became, mashallah, religious. Before he wasn't like that. So now he wants, he cannot become alim, but at least he's wishing that, his generation could become scholars and things like that. Then they say, if he serves ulama, respect them, and even spends his money on them, as a result, he said, his son will be a scholar. If not, his grandson will be a scholar. And he mentioned the examples of that in the book. If you have this wish, then you have to do this way. And when you do this, as a result, Allah will bless your own son to be a scholar. If not, at least the son of the son will be a scholar. So these are some of the introductory remarks. And with respect to the for the ilm itself is also very important, because it is a very sublime ilm, as I mentioned before many times. I will mention to you one story, a real life learning experience story. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he used to give dars in Masjid al-Nabawi for years. He was the teacher of Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahu Akbar. If you read about him, he would sit, those of us who have visited Masjid al-Nabawi, the Masjid of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the qabr of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is this way. And the masjid now, it's very big, huge, but it wasn't like that in his time. So he would sit here like this. He had a mahaba, really, a haybat. His personality was such, no one would dare to speak in his presence. He was like that, subhanAllah. He would sit, and as he would narrate the narrations of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say, قَالَ صَاحِبُ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. He would point out like this. The person resting in this qabr has said this. It would really, even when I just think about this, it gives me a goosebump just to think about this. This was the mahaba and the haybat of the personality of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala. Students used to travel far and wide and even locally ulama to sit in his dars, in his lesson. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, one of the great muhaddis himself and a jurist, says that because he was in fiqh, he was the student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, and he was the student of hadith, and he was the student of Imam Malik in hadith. So he said, I noticed one time in the dars that Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, for 16 times his face turned pale, as if there was electricity run through his body, shocking him. 16 times. And he noted down, when the dars was over, he respectfully went to him and asked him, I noticed today for 16 times, your appearance changed, and as if there was electricity shock touched your body. Allahu Akbar. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said, yes, it is true. But the reason was, on my way to here, Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala was a man that he used to wear, he would take bath, apply perfume, use the new clothes or the best clothes before he would give dars as a respect to hadith. So he said, on my way here, as I put on the clothes, I noticed that there was a scorpion got in my shirt, my qamis. And as I sat, when you sit on the masnad, on the ground, it is a bit higher. This is what it's called masnad. They didn't have these chair seating system. So now the qamis became tight on the body, so the scorpion was agitated and didn't find a way to get out. So it stung me for 16 times. As a result, you noticed what you noticed, but he said, because of the adab and ihtiram for the hadith of aqwal of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this was the man who had this much respect for hadith, he said, I continued. So this shows the adab and respect for ilm, and these were the things that made him the great Imam. So wallahi, everyone wants to be great. Everyone, especially in this age. But there are things to do. When we do that, then that will change our personality. So here, anyhow, the author mentions certain things that we should take account of. اعلم أن طالب العلم لا ينال العلم ولا ينتفع به إلا بتعظيم العلم وأهله وتعظيم الأستاذ وتوقيره. You must know that the seeker of knowledge, as a seeker of knowledge, you must know that لا ينال العلم ولا ينتفع به. You cannot even attain ilm, let alone benefiting from it. He says, even you cannot attain ilm, let alone benefiting from it, إلا بتعظيم العلم وأهله, without respecting the scholars, the people of ilm, and the ilm itself, the knowledge itself, and respecting to the paying respect to the teacher. Allahu Akbar. And then he quotes a statement, قِيلَ مَا وَصَلَ مِنْ وَصْلٍ إِلَّا بِالْحُرْمَةِ وَمَا سَقَطَ مِنْ سَقْطٍ إِلَّا بِتَرْكِ الْحُرْمَةِ. Anyone who has reached the high ranking, it was as a result of the adab and respect to the teacher. And I'm speaking really true based on the experience. When I was the student, there was many genius colleagues, very, very sharp, very intelligent. And there were some dull-headed, not so sharp in the class. And subhanAllah, when I look back that time and today, those who were seen as not very bright, not very intelligent, they are doing a lot more good service to Islam than those who were very bright-minded. And when I thought of that, I realized that subhanAllah, it is because they had adab and respect to the teacher, and they were pious at that time. Allah gave them today prominence. And those who were very intelligent, oftentimes shaitan takes them, you are very intelligent, and their pride killed them. I don't even know where they are today. But these, they appear on television. There are many things, subhanAllah, I was very surprised. One of Shaykh Umar Abidin, may Allah bless him, so he was one of those students. But today, mashallah, he has not only in India, even in Arab world, in Qatar and other places, he is known. So it was this behind the success of his personality. Adab and respect to the scholars and piety, these things. So we should not really be bragging about, oh, I'm this and that. Rather, we should focus on this. So this is why he says, al-hurm, that ma wasala min waslin illa bil-hurma. Anyone who has reached the high ranking because of that respect. And anyone who dropped that, the carrier has dropped him. And he was no longer the successful one. And وَمِن تَعْظِيمُ الْعِلْمِ تَعْظِيمُ الْأُسْتَاذِ. Part of the respect to the ilm is to respect the teacher. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, أَنَا عَبْدٌ مَنْ عَلَّمَنِي حَرْفًا وَاحِدًا. I am the slave of everyone and anyone who would teach me even one alphabet. Who is this person? Now recall that statement that I shared with you. Ali radiallahu, about him what I said, what the Tabi'i said, rahimahullah ta'ala. So he says, anyone who would teach me one alphabet even, I would become like a slave for him. If he wishes, he can sell me. If he wishes, he can keep me. One scholar of the past, in the past, it was such that janitorial work was designated to one particular class of human society. Now it is open. This is how it was back then. So it comes in his biography that one time there was a woman who used to do this work, and she was not even Muslim, as I recall, wallahu alam. But she was a woman, elderly woman. As she was walking, this scholar was there, he stood up to pay respect to her. Then the students surrounding the scholar, they were surprised. They asked why, because they knew she was the one who does the janitorial work. She would wash the washrooms, clean the washrooms, etc. So the society used to frown upon that type of people, but this scholar paid respect to her. And he said, let me explain to you why I respected her, I showed my respect to her. One time I was struggling with knowing one mas'ala. What was that mas'ala? I wanted to know, when does the dog become baligh? Hits the age of puberty, dog. And somehow this woman was to pass by, and then she responded to me. She gave me the right answer. She said, when the dog starts to urinate, lifting up the leg, that is the time that it's a sign that the dog is now has hit the age of puberty. So I learned this mas'ala from her, a practical point. Therefore, she became my teacher. She is my teacher, he said. And with respect to the teacher, it does not mean that we have to respect only Muslim teachers. If you have a non-Muslim teacher, anyone who teaches you something good is your teacher. One of the scholars of hadith, in his book of hadith, has given the title of this, to one hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Jawazul Mu'allim al-Mushrik lil-Muslim. What is the title? Jawazul Mu'allim al-Mushrik lil-Muslim. Permissibility of having a non-Muslim teacher for a Muslim teacher. This is the title of the hadith. And then he quoted the incident of the battle of Badr, where there were 70 captives, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam had set the ransom for them, that if you teach these kids knowledge, you will be set free. And they were not Muslims. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam trusted them with that. And obviously this shows that the teacher could be any, as long as he teaches you something good. It doesn't have to be Muslim. I mean Islamic sciences, of course, we have to learn from Muslim ulama, ulama and sulaha, but in terms of other sciences, it could be any, as long as it is beneficial to you. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Wa min tawqir al-mu'allim, and part of the respect to the teacher is that an la yamshi amamahu, that you should not be, this is what very important. Traditionally this used to be the case. I'm speaking based on my experience, not to really just brag about, but the reality. When we were the students, it was impossible for us to imagine to do anything against what this scholar is saying. And I am speaking of our time, just 10 years ago. We were like that. What does he say here? An la yamshi amamahu, that you shouldn't walk ahead of your teacher. An la yamshi amamahu. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala in Bidayatul Hidayah, he mentioned exclusively about this, for the respect of the teacher. Wala yajlisu makanahu. I never remember, even I have seen scholars, even if one time the teacher would sit on the chair, out of respect he would not sit after him on the chair. These things seem to us taboo, and we wonder, maybe we are living in a dream world that is not real. These are the realities I'm speaking of. Where are these adab today? No wonder we have no barakah in our ilm. وَلَا يَجْلِسُ مَكَانَهُ وَلَا يَبْتَدِئُ بِالْكَلَامِ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. He shouldn't be speaking before him without his permission. وَلَا يُكْسِرُ الْكَلَامَ عِنْدَهُ. And he shouldn't be too talkative, too much talking in his presence. Whenever I have my teacher, I can't even speak in his presence. My tongue starts to stutter immediately. This is the mahaba of the teachers. وَلَا يَسْأَلُ شَيْئًا عِنْدَ مُلَازَمَتِهِ وَيُرَاعِي الْوَقْتِ. And as he is associating himself with him, shouldn't be asking things from him unnecessarily. And وَيُرَاعِي الْوَقْتِ, and he should respect the time of the teacher. Should not waste his time engaging him in things that are futile and not benefit. وَلَا يَدُقُّ الْبَابِ بَلْ يَصْبِرْ حَتَّى يَخْرُجَ الْأُسْتَاذِ. He shouldn't be knocking on his door if he has gone to learn I mean, if he has called you to come, that's a different case. But if you are going for the sake of learning, and so you shouldn't be knocking on the door. This is extreme adab. You should rather wait till he comes out. And on this note, it reminds me of the great giant Mufassir. In fact, the master of this science, the teacher of he has been named as Ra'isul Mufassirin, the master of the science of tafsir. It was none other than Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, the great Sahabi. He says about him that when Prophet ﷺ has passed away, I said to my friend, let's embark on the journey of knowledge, because I fear that the knowledge of Rasulullah ﷺ will perish and we will not be able to retain that. His friend said, are you kidding me? There are so many great Sahaba here. And you think that you can encompass more knowledge of Rasulullah ﷺ than them? He did not take him seriously. So he left him and he set on the journey. He writes, he mentions of his own experience. He said he would go in the intense heat of Arabia in the afternoon to a Sahabi of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam who would think that he had a hadith that he heard from Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would go and he would reach to his door. It would be burning heat and hot, and as wind blow, the dust and the sand would come over him. He would be sitting next to the door of the Sahabi al-Jalil, the great Sahabi, and would not knock. He said, I was sitting there, then after some time, that Sahabi radiyallahu anhu opened the door and he came out. And he was embarrassed. It's because he is the cousin of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this Sahabi said, Halla akhbartana, why didn't you not inform us? I would have come to you, or at least the least is that you should have knocked on the door. He said, something at that point, that is the moral of this narration. That is what I want to share, which is in relation with that. What did he say? Al-ilmu yu'ta ilayhi wa la ya'ti. Knowledge is such that you should travel to. It shouldn't come to you. Therefore I came to you and I waited. Al-ilmu yu'ta ilayhi wa la ya'ti. Knowledge is something that you should travel to. This is why in the past there are many books written, Rahlatul Ulama. Any great scholar of the past, you read about their life, you will find an integral part of their life and personality that they used to travel for the sake of knowledge, for seeking knowledge, different countries. And as a result, they have composed many rihlat, journeys, in the quest of seeking knowledge. And today, it is the other way around. People either request the teacher or ask the teacher to come to their home, or they are, and one of the things I really think is serious here, and please pay attention to this, and this is why I don't like this personally. At least if we do that, please maintain the adab. When you are online listening to any scholar's lecture, maintain the same adab as if you were in his presence. Maintain the same adab and respect. I see people, a scholar, great scholar, giving a talk. It's recorded online. Now he's laying on the bed and eating and listening like this. This is why there is no barakah in your ilm. You should be sitting in the same way as if you are sitting in his presence. That is the adab. Because there are people who are sleeping and listening to that, eating and listening to that. And therefore there is no barakah in ilm. You would wonder when you read the biographies of these great scholars, how they learned. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Astaghfirullah. So this is very important, that as we respect, in our time, as we respect the teacher in his presence, if we are listening to his talk, to some degree our respect should go the same. It is not haram or things like that if someone lays down, but it is about adab. We are talking about adab. فالحاصل أنه يطلب رضاه ويجتنب سخطه ويمتثل أمره في غير معصية لله تعالى. The summary is that of all what he said above is that يطلب رضاه, he should or she should seek his pleasure and avoid anything that would cause him the discomfort or would make him even angry. وَيَمْتَسِلُ أَمْرَهُ فِي غَيْرِ مَعْصِيَةٍ لِلَّهِ, and should follow him so long as he does not command you to commit a sin. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. No one is allowed to disobey Allah in order to please someone or obey someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the next one he says, even he goes one step forward. وَمِن تَوْقِيرِهِ تَوْقِيرُ أَوْلَادِهِ وَمَنْ يَتَعَلَّقُ بِهِ. Part of the respect to the teacher is that to show respect and veneration to even his family and his children. And he quotes one incident that one of these scholars in Bukhara, during his dars, he was constantly standing up and sitting down while teaching the students. SubhanAllah. And then the students asked him, what was that? It was something very unusual that he was teaching the students, and then suddenly he would stand up and then he would sit down. He said, I noticed that the son of my teacher, who was a little kid, along with his friends playing on the street, so as he came across the door of the masjid, as a respect to my teacher, I stood up for him. SubhanAllah. Can we ever imagine this? If you do this, then people will think you are insane. But this is how they did, and this is how they became great. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And the next point is, I'm trying to skip the things. And another thing that with respect to the respect for the teacher, he also cites another incident here. It's worth listening to. The very famous Khalifa Harun al-Rashid, he had two sons by the name of Amin and Ma'mun. So he sent one of them to one of the scholars, Isma'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, so that he could teach them the adab and knowledge, the courtesy and the ilm. So one day, this was the Khalifa. Imagine his empire was so big that he said one time, addressing to a cloud, what did he say? أَمْطِرِي حَيْثُ شِئْتِ فَسَيَأْتِينِي خَرَاجُكِ. O cloud, you can travel as far as you want, and as a result of your rain, whatever crops that will come out, the earth will produce, the tax of that will come to my treasure. It was said about the British Empire, the sun never sets in the British Empire. I mean, he had greater than that. So this was the man of this great empire, Khilafat, state. He sent his son for this. So one time he came to the scholar, Ismail rahimahullah ta'ala, he noticed that he was performing wudu. So the son of the Khalifa was pouring water, and the teacher was washing his hands and the feet. The Khalifa Harun Rashid got upset. It would be the same in our time, but the reason for his upset was different than in our time. If a scholar to treat the son of the president today like this, the president will be angry and say, how dare you treat my son like a slave? They would be also angry today. He was also angry, but the reason there was different than today. What was the reason for his anger? An upset mood? He said, I sent my son to you so that you could teach him the adab. Why did you not tell him to pour water with one hand and wash your feet with the other hand? You should have told him this. You should have told him that you should pour water with one hand and use the other hand to rub your feet and wash. This is the king of that time saying to the teacher. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Really, when you read these things, you marvel. You live in a world that has absolutely no clue of what you are talking about. Astaghfirullah. And this is the incident that he shares here. And the next point, what he also mentions here, وَمِن تَعْظِيمِ الْعِلْمِ تَعْظِيمُ الْكِتَابِ. Part of the respect to the knowledge is that you show respect to the books of knowledge as well. And he quotes several instances that, first he says, فَيَنْبَغِي لِطَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ لَا يَأْخُذَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِطَهَارَةٍ. It should be a trait of the student of knowledge that he shouldn't be touching the book with respect to the religious sciences without wudu. They should develop this trait, that they should be in the state of wudu always. Back to your question that you asked me yesterday, the benefit of wudu. And moreover, whenever he or she is to read the book of Deen, that they should be in the state of wudu. And then he mentions the examples, the examples from the life of some of the great scholars. For instance, Shamsul Aimma Halawani rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great jurists of fiqh Hanafi, he said about himself, إِنَّمَا نِلْتُ هَذَا الْعِلْمِ بِالتَّعْظِيمِ. He was a man of encyclopedia, man of great knowledge. He prepared books like academies would do today. He wrote books like that. So he says that I gain whatever ilm I gain because of ta'zeem al-ilm, because of respect to ilm. How did he show respect? فَإِنِّي مَا أَخَذْتُ الْكَاغَذْ إِلَّا بِطَهَارَةٍ. I have never picked up a piece of paper unless I was in the state of wudu, because that is the source of ilm. Seriously, I really, please try to develop this in you. It's a request, possibly. When we were the student, we were told that you shouldn't be stepping over a paper, or not even an alphabet, because that is the source of ilm. You spend your money, your time for those things, and how could you walk over it? So as you walk, please, if you see a piece of paper, at least don't step on it. And even more important, that if you see things written on it, because now we have problem. Now people have divorced themselves from knowledge. They write on the floors and people walk on it. In California, there is a street, in the area of Hollywood. All the Hollywood stars, their names are on the street, and they see that as a pride. Right? People are walking on it. I wonder, how is that the respect? All these stars have the names of these celebrities, and people are walking on it, and they see that as a sign of pride. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. On that street, let me share this with you. The recent, may Allah have mercy on him, the boxer Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah, who passed away. As an honor for him, it was offered to him that we would have the star, written your name, and we would fix it there. He refused. Why did he refuse? He said, my name is Muhammad. If you have it there, people will walk on it, and I will not accept it. He's the only name. He has the only name. It is on the side today. If you go there, you will find that star that belongs to him is on the wall, not on the floor. This is the adab that he had for the name of Sayyidul Mursaleen sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So avoid walking on the letters, because that is what teaches you ilm. And he mentions another example of great